It's the 21st of August, and we're going to take a look and see what's going on in the garden now. So the usual tour. Chives are doing grand. They're actually starting to flower, which is fine. Maybe I'll collect some seeds. Eggplants. We have lots of eggplants going in there now. They're getting nice and big. So the plants are big enough now where the flea beetles are not causing that much trouble. They're still there, but they're not really causing that much of an issue because the plants are big enough where they can handle it. They're doing a decent job of growing up around the strings that I've put there for them. You'd have to manually twist them on there though, but it gives them lots of support to take the weight of the eggplants. I still don't have anything planted down in this area where I pulled out the last of the onions. A couple of tomatoes are going grand here. We have the rest of the tomatoes. These are the Romas and Brandywines, and so I've had to put in a lot of extra supports because we've been getting some high winds that have just been knocking everything down. There's Cookie the dog. But now we've been picking them for a while now. They're starting to get nice and red, ready to make sauces and salsas and things like that. So that's been going all right, but you have to come out here and just make sure nothing fell over. I've been running strings around everything and extra posts and extra cages and trying to keep busy. So zucchini has not had a lot of activity recently. I pulled a couple of nice big ones a week ago, about the size of my forearm. They're actually pretty big. And there's not really any growth since, and partially that's to do with how hot it has been. It seems that the flowers are just drying out pretty quick before they get a chance to fertilize. Plus those are all male flowers down there. There just hasn't been really many female flowers. So what are you going to do? Pulled all the celery that's in the fridge, and I set the peas here. So these have been in the ground for 10 days, I think. I set them on the 9th, so by the power of maths. Probably only about 50% of them germinated, but they're slowly coming up still. And I have them packed about every 2 inches or so. But get a decent fall crop out of there. Jalapenos are growing away, not getting awfully big. They were being crowded out on this side by the celery, but they're just not altogether healthy. The leaves are very yellow. Even though I have been putting on fertilizer, they just have very yellow leaves. I think partially the zucchini puts out a pretty thick network of roots, and that just might be robbing everything. This sad state of affairs is where the corn was. The squirrels took all of it, and so I cut everything out. But I didn't have any plants ready to put in, so but I have some started, but they won't be big enough to put in for another week or so. So that's a shame. I should put a cover on that because the sun is just going to dry out any of the nutrients that are in there. Strawberries, still getting 1 or 2, surprisingly. There's still a couple just popping up every now and then. And this is the turnips, which are way too thick, but I'm growing them for compost as much as anything. There's something that's just chewing that up like crazy. So, but that's fine. I'm really growing it to be a whole bunch of leaves and to cover the soil. Little row of spring onions going along the back. Some dirty big grass weeds just growing in amongst everything too, so get them out as well while you can. That almost looks like corn. Maybe it is corn. Because the squirrels have been burying stuff as well, because that's what they do. Right, go up to the big beds. I just had the sprinkler on, so everything's dripping wet. But that's okay. Parsnips still doing their parsnip thing. They're gonna keep growing all the way into the cold weather. Green beans, lots of pole beans in there. I'll come through and I'll pick them tomorrow. Probably get another 3 pounds. I get about 3 pounds every week, which is just an awful lot of beans. Probably more than we can eat as a go, but we've been doing our best. Bell peppers, doing great. I've been pulling a lot of them. They're nice and happy and healthy up in there. We've been pulling them about every week. And pull them when they're a little on the smaller side, just because they're just for as much as we eat. That's enough. Acres and acres of tomatoes. So there's 4 different varieties of tomatoes growing in here. 3 are the cherry kind, and then there's this salad style back there as well, which is a variant called Big Boy or something like that, I think. I kind of let the tomatoes go a little wild. They had been going up the strings, and then I just said the hell with it. But it's been raining today, and I just sprinkled, so I'm gonna have to get out here soon to go and pick a bunch of tomatoes because they're gonna burst, and then that won't be much fun. Brussels sprouts are starting to really take off and get big. So this one here is about 3 feet tall, and not too many buds really, but they're going to really take off once it gets cooler. That'll start pumping out the little buds. This is the garden beans. I'm letting them go to seed, so basically wait till you get the pods go very yellow like that, and then that's when they're ready to pick. So that's they're not as good to there's a dead bird in my garden. They're not as good to eat as an entire pod as the pole beans are, so just let them go to seed and then eat the seeds. Get this bloody mess out of the way, Jesus Christ. Okay, cucumbers. There's cucumber. Haven't had great amount of cucumbers, and I think it's just because I had them spread too far apart. Last year I had 12 cucumber plants on this same trellis. This year I only have 4, and I have 2 different varieties, and they're spread out. So this variety, which was Macklemore? I don't know. Go thrift shopping. This variety has been doing okay, whereas the other variety, which is called Straight 8, I have not gotten any off of either of the plants. But now lots of flowers, but no cucumbers off the Straight 8s, which, whatever. But these are cantaloupe watermelons, so they're starting to swell up and get nice. We'll see what happens. First time I grew them. As they get bigger, I'll have to put them into pantyhose or something so I can hang it off the string, because otherwise it'll pull the whole plant down the vine. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about a half dozen of them growing scattered around. That's probably as much as I need. But you can see here's the tomatoes and cucumbers starting to go wild, and I said, yeah, why not? So there is a couple of varieties. So this one is deliberately, it's a yellow variety, which I saved from seeds last year. And so the red and the yellow, they're basically the same one. It's just this variant just produces more yellow. And so I saved that. And here are nice, gorgeous bunches of tomatoes. And that's a variety that I saved from seeds from the grocery store last year. So, can be done. Look at that. And you can just see on the back side here, away from the sun, just how many green beans actually are growing, and they are just everywhere. It's funny that they're starting to grow up, snake onto this tree, and they're growing up the tree as well. So you see them growing in the trees. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Goodness, out of the jungle. Hopefully the squirrels don't find these. So there's a garden bean. And we'll pop that open here in a minute. Okay. Down to the long bed. And the sunflowers are out. I just grow them for fun, why not? And then as they get bigger, the flower heads will dip over, and so this flower head, they are about 10 feet high right now, and they'll bend over as they fill up, but the bees love them. So the bees are crawling all over these things all day long and getting nice and big. And so when they get very big, they'll flop over like that, and that's how it do. Squash, I have a couple of squash growing here on the back, so they're starting to change colors. They're not very big. The issue is they just didn't get enough water. I do have a sprinkling system, but they're just not getting enough water. Peppers, still going strong. Not getting too many pickling cucumbers. They're, the issue is, well, they're just crowded back there. And then when they do grow, there's one right there on the ground. I tend to miss them. But there's another one in there. Come out of the way, dog. So there's one right there. That's just a good size to grow. Grab there for pickling. You don't really want them to get much bigger than that, because then they start to form seeds and taste bad. All right, dog. Smells the dead bird, which I need to go and pick up. So, squash, they're not looking great. They're not getting any bigger either. I had a couple of the acorn squash for dinner yesterday. They were grand. More tomatoes. That's that heirloom variety. Those are coming along great. Lots and lots of them. And they're doing much better back here than they are up in the main bed. Poor old basil is just getting completely crowded out, so I'll have to cut that out. It's actually gone too yellow, so it's not even good enough to use either. Yeah, so lots of tomatoes. There's more pickles hiding back in there somewhere. I can see them. Yeah, it's been quite... So this is basically tomatoes. This is the name of the game right now. So, grapes. We have the grapes. I think the ones up in here, the squirrels have discovered them. So there's not too many alive there. Strawberries need a bit of water. The onions are ready to bring inside. Dog's ready to go inside. And then this is the surprise success this year, has been this squash, this acorn squash. We pulled 2 big ones off of this already and ate them. And it's already got more of them growing in there. So there's another one about the size of my hand. There's another one started up here. So that's the surprise success in the garden this year. So, and that is it. Okay.